You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-hosts Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good. Ready to start the NFL playoffs. So congratulations again to those who won their fantasy championships this year. Hopefully you didn't have to play in Week 18, but if you did, hopefully you had Jahmyr Gibbs because he probably propelled you to a championship. So now we move on, right? So now you can do playoff, little playoff pools. You can do squares, obviously the big thing coming up for the Super Bowl, and all sorts of different little gambling aspects. But for the most part, fantasy football has come to an end for the 2024 season. So we take a step back. We evaluate. We see what worked. We see what didn't. We wait to see what's going on with some of these rookies and who's declaring and who's not. We have just over 100 days before the draft, so we got plenty of time. But nevertheless, it's time to get back to the grinding stone, especially either you're trying to repeat or you're trying to dethrone someone who won. I mean, those are your two options. Like, everybody is in one of those two camps right now. So what better time to start getting after it than now?
We got through Black Monday, which kind of spilled into Black Tuesday, right? A day when all these coaches get fired. I'm going to be honest. I thought there would be
Black Sunday.
Yeah, that's true. I thought there would be kind of more than there were, if that makes sense. Several teams had disappointing seasons, and truth be told, like, there could be more coming, right? Like, McCarthy doesn't have a contract right now with the Cowboys, even though they denied the Bears' request to talk to him. There was some coordinator shakeups and players asking out, but like, we know that the Patriots are going to have a new head coach. We know the Raiders will have a new head Coach. Mike Vrabel, right?
6 teams with vacancy.
We know that the Jaguars will now have a new head coach. There was a couple in season, right, with the Bears, and the Titans kept their head coach but fired their GM. So it's just like some weird stuff with some of the way that these leadership changes were happening. I got to give the NFL is so they're very calculated with what they do. Like, there is the NFL calendar is spectacular. Like, they make sure that there's something NFL relevant kind of every portion of the calendar year. And hilariously enough, the NFL season officially ends on, was it January 4th on Sunday? And on January 5th it ends. And then later that day, or essentially Monday morning, the NFL has released what every team is going to play next year. Here's your opponents. We don't have dates and times, but we do have, here's who you're playing at home, here's who you're playing away. So you can get excited about what next season's going to look like already, especially if your team didn't fare so well. And I was just going through and looking at that and thinking, oh, all right, like that's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad. But like, looking at Denver's schedule, who they've got, where they've got them, just okay. Like, and every single fan, has looked at that and been like, okay, all right, yeah, I see what we got going here. We could probably do something, even though your team is going to wildly miss out on expectations, probably because half the league does.
Yeah, six teams right now with coaching vacancies here, and at that point, if you had to kind of look at those and rank those as the most desirable job for the head coach, which one would you be, right? You've got the Raiders, you've got the Jaguars, the Patriots, the Bears, the Saints, and the Jets.
I'd tell you it's the Jags because it's the easiest division.
I can see that.
And you have a quarterback in place, right?
You have a quarterback, you have a really good
Good
young
running back.
and Brian Thomas Jr. You got 2 capable running backs. Evan Ingram will be back, so you have a tight end. So offensively,
The weapons are there.
you should feel pretty confident, right? That you should be able to move the ball and make some things happen. So I don't know. I mean, the Patriots, I think the Patriots are going after Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
Like, I think
I
that
feels like it's
screams
done.
like just a shoe in already. So that'll be interesting. The Jets, that franchise is struggling, right? Lots of turmoil. You don't know what's going on with Rodgers. You have these salary cap numbers. Like, do you go offensive minded because you've been kind of a defensive team, or do you feel like you're losing your identity if you do that? And then you're trying to play into it. Because again, the Jets have some pieces, right? They have Brees Hall, they have Garrett Wilson. Obviously, the quarterback situation is in flux, so that's a big thing. But as a head coach, you get to come in and maybe have a say on your guy. So that's appealing. Kind of the same thing with the Raiders. Like, you have Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers is not a true alpha, but you know, you're going to be able to draft a quarterback and kind of start over there. Um, the Bears, young Caleb Williams. You have Roma Dunze. You have DJ Moore. You have Cole Kmet. I mean, the secondary for the Bears played pretty well. You need some help in the front seven. They're a little light in the pants there in the front line, but maybe fewer holes to address. I think there's pros to most of these teams. You know, it just what outweighs it? I mean, to me, it's the division. Like, shit, there's much less competition that you have to fight through in the AFC South than there is in any other one of those divisions.
Right. I can see that. The one that the one that I would rank kind of last on that list as most desirable would be the Saints, though. Right. It's a middling team, right? Like they're a team that's and it's an older team and a team that has very little. Like, there's a ton of restrictions from a cap perspective and the contracts that are on the books and all of that really limit what they are able to do. Whereas some of these other teams, they've got draft picks that can help out with that, as well as the fact that they've got a ton of free agency money that they can go out and really try and revamp a roster to really try and bring that in and bring that home for whoever the head coach is. But the Saints certainly are are limited on what they can do there.
I'm looking at Yahoo reporting here, and the Jets have requested or want to talk to 14 different guys for their head coach.
That feels like a little bit of a shell game type of thing where it's I'm just going to keep going until and sort it out.
Yeah. So a couple of the names on this list are ones you would expect. Mike Vrabel's on this list. Ron Rivera's on this list. Rex Ryan. Some guys that have been tied. But there's also a couple surprising names on here, including Brian Greasy. Vance Joseph is on there. They've requested to talk to Vance Joseph, who I thought didn't get quite the fair shake when he was the head coach in Denver, and we know he can coach a defense, right? We've seen it. The Bears have Pete Carroll on their list.
Right, Aaron Glenn's another name that's very popular.
David Shaw is on the Bears list. From he's the old Stanford coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Jaguars have requested. I mean, they've kind of gone out of left field. They've got Aaron Glenn,
Aaron
Ben
Glenn seems to be on
Johnson.
everybody's.
Yeah, Aaron Glenn is on everybody except for the Patriots. Interestingly enough, according to this reporting from Yahoo, the Patriots have they've talked to two, they've requested Ben Johnson. The two guys that they've talked to, Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton. Mike Vrabel's not on that list, which is wild to me because I think we all agree. Like, that's Mike Vrabel's job to lose, right? Like, that's what that feels like. Or maybe Robert Kraft wants to go a different way and not have somebody who, played under Belichick because he and Bill didn't really see eye to eye and he just stuck it out while they were winning championships. Who knows? But it's pretty interesting. I see Kellen Moore's name is getting thrown around.
One of the most interesting one was Rex Ryan, with the Jets having already
coached there.
Right, he already coached there, already, kicking the tires on that one again, and he already interviewed. Looked like he interviewed earlier today.
It does look that way, yeah. So, it'll be interesting to see who fills these positions, and we'll probably be back. I don't have it in front of me, but 6 feels like a low number. We'll probably be right back here talking about 6 teams needing head coaches a year from now.
Right. It seems to kind of be in that 6 to 8 range on that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is the number of teams that are kind of constantly in that cycle. Right.
Right. Doesn't that say something?
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly does. Right. The Jets seem to kind of turn that over a fair bit. The Bears, the Jaguars have certainly kind of gone through their stint lately. So very interesting on some of these things, right? Whereas you look at some of these other organizations where, they are very successful for very long periods of time, and there's not the coaching changeover, right? So certainly makes you wonder kind of how that plays in there. But right, like you look at the Ravens, right? Hyper successful the last few years, right? They and Harbaugh's been there a long time. Same thing with Pittsburgh, right? They've had 3 head coaches since the 70s. Like that's insane to think about in today's NFL, where some of these guys don't even get a full year to try and finish it out.
So and one thing I'm looking at is just cap space, just as it stands, cap space for 25 right now, right?
Right.
So 3 of the teams who need head coaches are in the top 5 of available cap space. So the Patriots have $127.7 million worth of cap space that they can spend. So if you really want to go in and try and shake that team up, if you like what's on the open market, you can basically get whoever you want. Right. The Raiders, $107.3 million in cap space. Jump all the way. So that's 1 and 2. You jump down to the Bears, who are at 5, $80 million in cap space. The Jaguars, right, is an interesting one. Basically $35 million in cap space. You can do a lot with that, right? Like, it is definitely not the most, but they're basically just under the halfway point. Right. Jets 28.8, so not too bad. But then you get all the way down to the Saints, right? And this goes to Derek's point. They are $66.8 million over the projected salary cap.
Right.
And if you look at who they're paying and what they're paying, you don't even recognize half these guys.
Yep. And not only that, a lot of those guys, there's been things kind of reporting out there that some of these guys aren't really willing to take pay cuts either on that.
Like Eric McCoy. What position does Eric McCoy play?
He's
an offensive
right tackle.
He's a center.
Well, we're at least in the right room.
Cesar Ruiz.
That's a guard.
He is a nickelback.
He's a guard. He's on the
Carl
offensive line.
Granderson.
His brother played outfield for the Detroit Tigers for a while.
Yeah, but he's on the defensive side of the ball.
Yes.
He's a defensive lineman.
Yeah, edge rushing specialist. Like Kalen Saunders.
The Saints, Kalen Saunders is now tearing it up for Kansas City, isn't he?
He's on the Saints roster.
Yeah.
Interior defense. But I'm just saying, like, all these guys are top half of their top third of their roster as far as salary goes.
Right. And Derek Carr takes up something like 19% of their cap hit.
$51.4 million in cap space. Taysom Hill, 17.9, almost 18 million in cap space. Cam Jordan, not that Cam Jordan's not a great guy, but he's a little long in the tooth now, right? He's not what he once was.
Right.
$20 million in cap space. Ryan Ramczyk, okay, good offensive lineman for sure. $29 million in cap space. Carl Granderson, right? 11.7. Cesar Ruiz, 12.2. Jawan Johnson, 6.5.
Right.
Like,
and
they're just hemorrhaging money out to some of these guys. Like, if I'm the Saints, I'm changing over my GM.
They've got $48 million in dead money.
Like, these are terrible contracts, guys. Terrible.
Not only do they have a ton in dead cap space, like most of those guys that we just named off that have these massive contracts, you can't move on from them either because the dead cap is more than what the cap hit is by itself. So if you move on from them, your position actually gets worse. And if these guys aren't willing to take some of these restructured deals and free up some cap space, like I don't know how you can be competitive at that point.
Yeah. So the Saints are going to be struggle busing for sure. No matter who goes in there, right? No matter what their draft goes like. I mean, you got to have money to pay these rookies, and you can't pay the rookies until you get below the cap.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on what they do. Now, they have a massive cap number going into 24. They were able to move some things around. But, I mean, this is embarrassing what they're doing here.
Right. I mean, shoot, they've got Marshawn Lattimore. They've got 31 million tied up in dead cap there.
Right.
Michael Thomas over 9 million and Jameis Winston over 7 million.
And none of them are on the roster.
Right.
Yeah.
So kind of back to Alex's point of how much dead cap money there already is on that.
Yeah. The Saints are not desirable.
I thought the Broncos would have the most with Russ's huge contract, and no, like not even close. I think there's like $12 million difference between the Broncos' dead cap money and the Saints' dead cap money.
Right. I mean, and
the Browns have $39 million in dead cap, and they really are, especially for having damn near $40 million in dead cap space. They still have $50 million to work with.
Yeah, they have a young roster, right? Some things that they're pretty happy about, and just they're not.
I'll tell you, I think the and Derek has said this before, and he'll go back to it again, I'm sure. The key to having a really good run or a run at a Super Bowl is to have a quarterback on his rookie deal that's not eating up too much of your contracts, right? That's not eating up too much of your cap space, and have them punching above their weight during that rookie deal, right? Like that's basically how you can. That's the formula right now, and I think a lot of teams are chasing that.
Or have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, right. That aren't Kansas City. Right. That guy is obviously he's broken the mold when it comes to that position. He's broken the mold when it comes to what works financially with that position. and how you can still have other players. Like he's that good that he just makes everybody else around him that much better. But they are also having to deal with, rookies that are playing on the cheap, that are kind of punching above their weight class. It's just not the quarterback that they're doing it with. They're doing it with everybody else. That's why they had to move on from a Tyreek Hill. That's why they had to move on from how many running backs have left there,
Right. A ton.
Yeah. So that's the formula.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how some of this comes to play there. But if you're looking at that from that angle with the quarterback, all of that, right? Like New England, you have two good quarterbacks that just came off their rookie years, right? Like Drake May certainly, played pretty well for his rookie season. Joe Milton certainly looked really good that last game, right? When we saw him there. The Bears, you seemingly have your quarterback tied in there. And so with that, right, you've got these guys set up for some of these deals, and you can make a run at that. Vegas, you're gonna have to go out and get your guy in the draft here, hope and then try and build around that. Washington actually is in terrific shape as well, right? Like you just had Jaden Daniels coming off that deal, and over $100 million in cap space for 2025. So,
where Washington's going to get in trouble is they have to find so many guys.
Yeah.
Because going into 25, they only have 29 active players on their roster.
Right.
I mean, so it's just a lot that you have to find. Now you have a big cap number, so you can do that.
Right. Yeah, you can certainly.
It's just it's a little bit larger than where some of the others are, right? The Patriots with that 127.7, basically, they have 44 guys on their roster still.
Right.
I mean, the Raiders at least have 39. I mean, the Vikings. Here you go. The Vikings. They have 38. They have 75.5. Now, part of that's because they don't have a quarterback on their roster right now.
Right.
What, 25? A veteran, right? Going
in. Because he's on the vet minimum, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you kind of rethink that, but I mean, there's some possibilities here for some. I mean, a lot of movers and shakers of what we could see. So, I don't know. More to come. Obviously, the coaching shakeup will be crazy, but
right.
Do you guys want to play a game?
Yeah, real quick before we get into the game, there's a couple of comments. Let's hit these things up here real quick, and we'll get into the game. Okay. Scott over on YouTube asking Texans or Chargers. I think I've got Chargers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Texans
I want to say
playing very good
Texans,
right
but
now.
man, have they? Yeah, they've looked just terrible. They just have not looked good offensively the last 2-3 games all season, says the guy who had CJ Stroud and expected a hell of a lot more out of him. Chargers, man, Harbaugh can rally a team, and it seems like that's what he's been able to do with this Chargers. He's developed an identity with them. I like the Chargers in this one.
Yep. All three for
Jim
Chargers.
Jim Harbaugh teams are built for the playoffs, right? It can wear on you through the regular season a little bit. But his team and his mindset is built for the playoffs, right? Tough defense, running the football, grind it out, use the play action where you need to hit the big play. On top of the fact that it's in a dome, so you're not having to worry about weather in this game. I'm taking the team that's playing better right now. That's the Chargers.
Yeah, fair enough. Smokey the Cat over on YouTube. What's up, guys? Upset Steelers for the upset, and they like Washington to win that game. So, yeah, I could see that. Right, Steelers maybe, but the
Steelers have had a rough month, man. For their last 4, kind of hit a schneid. They're not moving efficiently on offense anymore. They're turning the ball over a little bit more. They're not creating turnovers on defense. It's like they're just a little gassed. So the Steelers one's going to be interesting. Seeing the Ravens again. The good thing is they're familiar, right? So you know exactly what you're scheming for. It's okay, this third time around, do we have something left that we haven't shown them yet on offense and on defense to try and, make some things work. So I think Baltimore wins that game, but I think the Steelers can keep it pretty close for at least the first half.
Fair
Hey,
enough.
it's crazy. They're playing each other so soon. This will be the third time in 3 months that they've seen the Steelers. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this game get pretty chippy pretty quick.
Oh yeah, I still like Baltimore in that one though.
Yeah.
So, I like the Washington call, right? I know there's a lot of people out there that are kind of taking Washington over Tampa Bay. I mean, I get it, but I don't know. Baker quietly had a very, very, very good year. So, don't sleep on Tampa Bay's offense and their ability to hang points up there with Washington. And if for some reason, if they're able to shut down the wide receivers for the Commanders, that one's probably going to be the best game, at least what I would perceive as the best game of the Wildcard Weekend. So
Yeah.
I don't mind the Washington pick, but that's probably the one game that I'm not looking to bet.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said it the way you said it, Kevin, when you said don't be surprised if Baker and Tampa can put up some points, because Vegas agrees with you. They've got the over-under at that game set at 50.5, which is
it's the highest
big
total
number.
of the weekend, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is the highest of the weekend. That's a big number. In contrast, the Chargers Texans is a 42.5 over-under. So
Right.
talking a full 8 points.
I'm going to take the under
On the 50.5.
Commander. Yep. I think both teams are going to be a little tight to come out. I think they all know what's at stake. Obviously, Jaden's first trip to the playoffs. I think Tampa Bay is moving along, but I could see them being a little tight here to start with. And so the first half, especially the first half total, like if you can get a line on that one, I'm definitely hammering the first half under.
Yeah. Oh.
Fair enough. And the legend of Baker grows when he's got something to play with the chip on the shoulder, right? Like we talked about this a little bit before we went on the air, that Baker may have gotten a little bit of a snub going for that Pro Bowl there, right? Like 4,541 touchdowns is nothing to sneeze at. But
No,
how
that'll
cool
get
is
you
it
there.
that they got Mike Evans to his 1,000 yards though?
yeah, that was amazing to watch that, and the whole team just celebrate.
They were so excited for him, right?
Like, so pumped. And when Bucky scored that touchdown, the face that Baker made, he was like, "Oh no, I still need to get Mike 8 yards here."
That was awesome. Joe over on YouTube saying the divisional might be a rematch of the 91 NFC championship game. Detroit certainly in a different position in this one than they would be back in 91, right? Between Washington and Detroit, where Washington was the higher seed there for sure. So any other thoughts on that one?
No, it'll be Detroit's, man. They look like they're on a mission, right? Like they just look like such a well-oiled machine right now.
And they're doing
even when
their entire defense is hurt, right?
Right. And they came out and looked really good against Minnesota.
Dude, Anzalone coming back and what he provided for the middle of that defense.
That was a huge spark.
Being able to stick his nose in there on top of the pass coverage on Hawkinson was crazy. Like, I don't know that they win that game if he's not able to come back, because the plays that he made and how frustrated he made TJ Hawkinson on routes that he wasn't running bad routes. It was just better coverage. So I don't know that the Lions win that game. I think the Vikings were able to keep it a lot closer, but Minnesota had their chances, right? Like, and they had plenty of chances in the first half. They going for it on fourth down and missing it, and not taking field goals, and going 0 for 4 in the red zone, and just some of the things that you can't do in playoff type settings. You got to be able to put points up on the board when you're that close. And Minnesota just, they just failed to do that, and things didn't kind of shake their way. And so now they got to go on the road to prove it. It's crazy that a 14-win team is a 5th seed, but we see seeding issues with college football too. Like some of these things, just it ain't how the cookie crumbles.
Right. Yeah. The whole thing about the surprisingly the teams that got almost a home game tune-up game in the playoffs for the first round magically made it on, and the teams that had to wait
Whole advance.
Mhm.
How weird.
didn't. Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, Scott over on YouTube saying that they can't believe the Rams are the 4 seed. So, and certainly
Yeah.
played well enough to win the division.
Back half for sure, right? Front
Yeah.
part of the season, we were going, ugh, like
It wasn't
injuries and
pretty.
trying to navigate through that without Puka and then without Cup and bouncing back and forth. But they found their mojo, and even late, they found ways to win games ugly, right? The
Right.
field goal fest with San Francisco, them, even finding a way to come back against Seattle here in week 17. They found ways to kind of grit out games, but that's the stuff you need for the playoffs, right? I mean, that builds a lot of character for that team, and they have a lot of confidence going in because they're able to do those things. So I'm not scared of the Rams, but if you sleep on the Rams, they will create problems for you because Matt Stafford still does have the ability to go off for 303. And Kyron, you still got to be able to slow Kyron down too, because he'll kill you on the ground if not.
Absolutely. All righty. And then Alex, let's go ahead and hit up your game there, and we'll come back to the chat here in a moment and hit up some more of these comments. Guys, if you have thoughts for answers to Alex's game, make sure you throw those in the comments as well. Let's have some fun with this.
All right, so my game it's actually a pretty simple game, but we know who is picking at number 1 in the upcoming NFL draft. We have an idea of who is going to be in the discussion for the number 1 overall pick, right? And what that team kind of needs. So the game will be twofold. The first game we'll play kind of like when we do our mock drafts. We'll say no trades. Tennessee is picking at number 1. Who is Tennessee taking? And then the second part of the game will be who might trade up to get that number 1 pick if Tennessee doesn't want to pick there, and who might they take? And don't worry about it making sense when it comes to the trade. Like we'll just for the sake of the exercise, we'll say whoever can get up there, whoever has the ability to get up there, it doesn't matter what they have to give up in return or blah blah blah. Like if you think what realistically might happen is a team trades up to pick at number 1 and who they take. So let's start with Tennessee. And who are they taking? This is obviously way too early because there's going to be some late riser, right? There always is. Some guy who does well at the Underwear Olympics in Indianapolis that impresses the pants off of everybody while not wearing any of his own. And we know that that's going to happen. But let's start with Tennessee picking at number 1 overall. Who are they taking?
It's a quarterback. Take your pick between Ward and Sanders. I think they lean Sanders.
Also, you can take out the fact that we're not going to anticipate any shenanigans on the players' parts. Like this is who they would take.
I'm going to lean Shador.
Whoa.
Kevin is in the unenviable position. You feel for the Titans general manager at this moment?
Yeah, I do. I don't know, man. Like I think
I agree with you.
I think I'd really
it's going to
be
be a
looking.
quarterback. I think it's Cam Ward, though.
Woof.
I know. I
Do you
think
really
he's a
think
little
either
bit,
one of these
but I think
guys have the ability to lead a franchise into the future?
no.
Or are
I
you
mean,
just taking a quarterback because you're number 1?
I think that's what they have to do. Yeah.
I think we've got
Well, they need
that's
it.
trash. But that's trash. Why do you have to do that? The last couple of years, you at least thought you had a guy, right? Between
Go ahead.
Caleb and Jaden Daniels last year, right? And the year before, between Young and Stroud, like you at least felt like you had the guy who could lead you there.
I think
Neither one
Cam
of these guys
Ward
give me
is
trash.
a serviceable.
Trash.
He can throw the ball.
He's got arm strength, right? I'll give you that.
He can throw it, and he's
But-
mobile enough.
Right? Like, it's one of those that, if in this draft class, if I'm really, what I would do is I would wait on quarterback if I had a quarterback requirement that I'm going after, and I'd go after a guy like Dylan Gabriel, right? Like, take a guy that's been around, seen a few different programs, has been able to win at various locations along the way, and certainly has enough experience that can come in there, and all of his teammates seem to glow on that one as well. So that'd probably be more the route that I'd be looking to take. But yeah, this is the NFL lately, and quite frankly, we're going to see a quarterback, I think, go at number 1 and number 2, and I think it's going to be Ward and Sanders off the board as the first 2 picks.
I think Quinn Ewers is going to come screaming up too. I mean, he's already third, but I think
That's
he'll
a
come
guy
screaming up and enter the chat.
That's a guy I could see falling a little bit, especially when they get into some of the other things. But that's one I could see falling just a little bit.
So Kevin, you've gone away from quarterback. Do you think they go just based off of ESPN's best available? I imagine this is Kuiper's list. You think they go edge rusher with Abdul Carter? He is listed as the best available.
I mean, I don't know. I think I'd rather go offensive lineman. Go was it Campbell, the kid from LSU?
He is not very high on this list, but that
Wait till the combine.
Yeah, I imagine that's what that is. ESPN has Josh Simmons from Ohio State as the top tackle.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, fine. Like, but I do not subscribe to the fact that you have to take quarterback at 1 just because you're at 1, especially when neither one of these guys at the moment lights my fire. Right? Sure. Miami flirted with disaster all season long, and it finally caught up to him. Shedeur Sanders couldn't lead his team to a Big 12 championship. Like, with Travis Hunter, right? Like you had, Shedeur holds onto the ball too long, and yes, he gets back up. How many hits is he going to be taking in the NFL like that? Like he took in college?
Yeah.
Like I just don't see it, right? Like everyone fell in love with Shedeur because they started out hot, and then they had the miracle overtime win against Baylor where he scrambled around and hucked it down to the back left corner of the end zone or the front left corner of the end zone, right? And his guy, came down with it. Like, they're good highlights. I'm not convinced he's a great quarterback. Like, I'm not convinced that he reads defenses that well. He just is athletic enough to get himself out of a little bit of trouble, but neither one of these guys uses their legs. So here's what I would do, right? You want the alternative. If I'm Tennessee, I'm calling the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm saying you can have this pick straight up if I can get JJ McCarthy.
That's not a bad one. That's not a bad deal.
Because JJ McCarthy would be the number 1 quarterback in this draft class, hands down. Yeah. So if I'm Tennessee, hey, you guys just had 14 wins. Maybe you re-sign Darnold, right? I mean, is it sexy? No, but can you get him for a mid to higher deal instead of resetting the market? Possibly. You're in a window. You're clearly in a window. You have Jefferson and you have Addison. You can bring Darnold back, and if you can keep that
Still
coaching
have
staff together, what?
is it Aaron Jones there?
Aaron
Yes.
Jones, yeah.
Like,
Hawkinson's there.
Like you
Hawkinson,
still have all
yeah.
these pieces. You're in a window. So what do you need a rookie quarterback for?
Cheap contract. Yeah.
You don't need one at this moment. So if I'm Tennessee, I'm calling Minnesota. Hey, what do you want for your guy that blew out his knee? We'll take the gamble on that. Here's the first overall pick. So there's my alternative. And I like that option better than Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders.
That's very interesting.
Fair enough.
All right. I think they go Cam Ward. But if a team trades up, I'd like to think that it would be the New York Football Giants, and I think they would be silly enough to take Shedeur.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
Yes, I do agree
If
with
it's
that.
not Tennessee, it's New York coming up to get Shedeur Sanders.
Or Las Vegas.
Or Las Vegas coming up, which like Las Vegas very well could. I don't know logistically if that works, but like logically it does. They need
Right.
quarterback help. He is a ticket selling machine, right? Like it's going to bring some excitement. I think the biggest question around this draft is what does the NFL, what do these NFL teams shoehorn Travis Hunter into being? Do they make him a wide receiver or do they make him a defensive back? Because
Cleveland takes him at 2. He can be both for them.
That's
Yeah.
true. And they play a lot fewer snaps in the NFL than they do in college.
If he falls to the Giants at 3, he could he could play both for them too.
So that's going to be the other thing that I'm going to be curious about is what do they shoehorn Travis Hunter into being? But they do play a lot fewer snaps in the NFL than they do in college.
It's true. All righty.
All right. Thanks for entertaining my game.
All righty. Let's go ahead and head into this comment here, this question. Smokey the Cat asking who's our Super Bowl winners. So at this point, let's go ahead and revisit. We'll go ahead and go into the Wayback Machine here and see before the season started how we called our division winners and see what that looks like, as well as preseason who we thought would be in the Super Bowl, and see if we'll want to update that and make any changes to our thoughts there. So for the divisional winners, Alex, you had out of the East for the AFC, you had the Miami and the Eagles for the NFC on the East. Kevin, you had the Jets and the Eagles. I had Buffalo and the Eagles. So with that, we all got the Eagles right. So there's that. That was a good one.
Once again, no repeat winner of the NFC East, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, there we go. Tradition lives.
That's true. In the North, on both the AFC and the NFC, we all called for Baltimore and Detroit, and that one came true. In the South, on the NFC, the AFC, we all called for Houston. Alex, you had Tampa Bay. Kevin and I both had Atlanta. And in the West, we all said Kansas City and San Francisco for the AFC and NFC side of things. And so we all missed on that San Francisco side of things. But some interesting hits, some interesting misses there on that one. For the preseason Super Bowl call, Alex, you were saying Miami and Detroit would be fun. However, you thought it would be San Francisco and Kansas City. Kevin was calling for Kansas City and San Francisco, and I called for Kansas City and Detroit. So the any kind of thoughts on this and any updates that you would like to make on your Super Bowl predictions?
How many people are going to shy away from Christian McCaffrey next year? How many scorned owners will shy away from Christian McCaffrey, how many people who are a little bit too concerned about what that injury is and the recovery from it and the ability to re-aggravate will
He
stay
won't be
away.
on any of my rosters.
I would agree with that. I think I'm staying away from him. I think that he was kind of the reason why San Francisco. I mean, there was a lot of reasons why San Francisco is not still playing football, but I think he's the number one reason why his inability to play this year. Clearly, I don't think that. Well, Miami is not going to make it, but and San Francisco is not going to make it. So I'll just take the other two teams that I had, and that was Detroit and Kansas City.
Copycat.
And I think that'd be a fun Super Bowl.
It would be the most entertaining Super Bowl.
I think that'd be very fun.
For sure. Like, I think it'd be the most entertaining Super Bowl. So Philly scares me because Jalen Hurts has still not cleared concussion protocol. So that bothers me big time. I think that Minnesota is interesting as the 5 seed, but I worry if there's enough chinks in that armor, right? If playoff football speeds up just enough that Sam Darnold's not quite there, right? We saw him overthrow a lot of balls in the first half against Detroit in what was essentially a playoff game. So that worries me a little bit. I just, with the way Detroit's playing, I'm going to have to piggyback with you guys. Like, they're playing the best football out of any NFC team and arguably the best football out of any NFL team.
Right.
So to look at this right now and go back and forth, I just don't see how it's not Detroit out of the NFC. From the AFC side, I want it to be Kansas City because I want the three-peat story. Again, I like witnessing history. And it's not that I necessarily want Kansas City specifically to win, but the fact that we haven't seen back-to-back Super Bowl champions since the Broncos did it.
Didn't the Patriots
No,
do
the
it?
Patriots did it. Excuse me, the Patriots. I like the idea of history and being able to witness history and kind of, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, we were, doing our podcast and blah 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 blah, right? Kind of that, on the rocking chair, story that your grandkids just kind of roll their eyes and go, "Shut up, Grandpa, we don't care."
Right.
Right. This is kind of that. So now, that being said, Baltimore defensively is coming along so well right now that their style of football screams playoff success to me too. But I think in either way, I think Detroit wins. Like, I think Detroit's the Super Bowl winner. I want a three-peat.
That'd be fun.
I don't love Baltimore, but I like how they're playing here at the moment.
Right.
Honestly, if Cincinnati would have snuck in the playoffs, I would have told you it was Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
No one wanted to see them. The Patriots rolling over and dying in Denver on purpose.
The Chiefs.
Whether it was
Chiefs doing that.
Or not the Patriots, sorry, it's the Chiefs. Like, and whether it was resting players or just not letting Cincinnati in, whatever, right? Let your conspiracy theories fly.
Right.
No one wanted to see Cincinnati. Not a single team.
Right. Well, and especially because if they manage to get by the Bills, they're going to Kansas City in the divisional round.
Yeah.
So
that was the scariest team. And sometimes the best teams don't always make it, but they were the scariest team. I don't know that they were the best team. They certainly were of late, but that was
the way they kind of came down the stretch for sure.
Ooh, yeah.
Right. So
they got to get past those slow starts, man. They can't go, 0-3, 1-4 in their first, 4 or 5 games. They got to figure out how to be, 500 through week 6. and then they can turn it on. But you can't be, 2 or 3 games back of 500 already going into week 7, and then just putting so much pressure on yourselves that you leave it into other people's hands. And that's what happened. Cincinnati just ran out of time. They ran out of weeks, and they left it in the hands of other teams to control their own fate. And anybody in sports will tell you that's the worst feeling ever. You want to be able to control your own destiny. And a lot of times you don't think about it in the first part of the season, but those games count. And, the ghost of, weeks 1 through 5 came back and bit Cincinnati square in the rear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be interesting, right? And you mentioned that they need to get off to a hotter start. Like, they're playing in a division that you can't mess around in, right? Like, there's some of these divisions that you could mess around and still make the playoffs, because it seemingly comes down to week 14, 15, 16, where it's like, well, who wants to win this thing? And you can play right around 500 and win the division.
The NFC South.
Yes, exactly.
For a while there, it was the NFC North too. Not
right?
the case anymore, but
no, you had the Packers were no slouches as well, but they put up an impressive record, and they weren't even in discussion for the divisional title going down the last few weeks. So
I'm worried about them too.
The Jordan Love injury is a little scary.
Christian Watson again, like they just kind of they haven't been firing on all the right cylinders. Jaden Reed's been MIA for the last 8 weeks of the season, basically. Like, yeah, I'm worried about the Packers. On paper, they should be a little bit more formidable in the passing game, but right now everything's running through Josh Jacobs. So if you're holding him under, 110 yards, you stand a really good chance of beating the Packers right now.
Right. That's a game that I think we'll see a lot of running, a lot of running in that one. So, all right. Any other thoughts on the old Super Bowl winner?
Yeah.
All righty. Scott chiming in, saying, isn't he thinking Chiefs versus Bills, Montana, Kelly? I think that going back to the divisional rematch of the NFC. No, Montana didn't come over to the Chiefs until like 93. He was not with the Chiefs then. Joe over on YouTube saying the Jets is who he has as the Super Bowl winner.
Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, Scott saying LOL and Smokey laughing face emoji there. Joe saying that Rodgers can run the table week 19. Oh, sure.
Right. Straight to his sabbatical.
Yes.
I have always found that the 19th hole is the one that I thrive at when I'm playing golf. So I imagine Rodgers in week 19 is similar too.
Fair enough. Jordan over on YouTube saying the Bills beating the Lions will also be a historic Super Bowl.
It would.
It is, but you don't have a villain.
You don't. You need a villain. You
have the two underdog, the two teams that have just never got there. Have never, yeah.
Like that's my problem with it. A, because it means the Bills beat my Broncos, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But whatever. But B,
Vegas
you don't have a villain.
Happen pretty easily.
Right.
So that's the good thing about Kansas City is you can want to be a part of history, but they can also play the villain role and stepping up there. Like it's the best storyline. And if you believe that the NFL is pre-plotted, it is going to be Kansas City and most likely Detroit because that's the best storyline too.
Let's see what the script has to say.
I mean,
I agree. Like the best story is Kansas City with the 3-peat, Detroit with Dan Campbell, who played on an 0-16 Detroit Lions team and now leads them to a Super Bowl. Like that that story in itself. Jared Goff, who is looking for redemption in a Super Bowl, right? The last time he got traded away, and now he's looking for redemption. Like, there's just so many good storylines for Detroit, and then obviously Kansas City's storylines are they are the team you either love or you love to hate, and
Right.
that you're talking about them for a number of different reasons, and they bring in the most fans too, right? Your non-football fans are tuning in because of who the tight end's dating, right? Like that's what the NFL wants. That's the dream for the NFL.
The crazy thing, like, I hated the Patriots, right? I hated the Patriots when Brady was there. I don't find myself hating the Chiefs, though. Like, for some reason, appreciate what they're doing more, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm older, maybe I'm getting soft in my old age, and I just don't care as much as I feel like I should. Like, who knows? But I don't find myself hating the Chiefs for winning back to back and doing it without Tyreek and this cast of characters on offense that's not Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Everybody else is a rotating door. Like, and maybe it's because they beat the Niners, and I'm not a big Niners fan at all. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, you beat the Niners. Like, maybe that helped because that's where one of the championships came from.
And the working theory is your team hasn't been competitive, and they weren't standing in the way of your team's success. The Patriots stood in the way of Denver's success. Like, they defiantly stood in the way of Denver's success throughout that run, right?
Was it Denver or was it just Peyton? Like,
it was Denver, but it was also Denver. Like, they were
Denver with Greasy was never going to get there,
right? And I guess one thing too to maybe kind of put that in perspective, right? Because Tom Brady later on, certainly I'm kind of right there with you as far as the not a fan. After, but the circa 2004 2005, really didn't have an issue there, right? Like, he wasn't the mainstay. Like, that was more of a, he didn't lose those games. It was the kicker that won them, and the defense that allowed them to put it into that type of point more so. It didn't seem to be later that they kind of turned, for lack of a better term, evil empire type of thing.
Well, they had the scandals, the Deflategate, and
the 4-letter
the right way, and
the 4-letter led to a lot of that, right? And some would argue they're doing the same thing with the Chiefs.
Oh yeah,
right? That the 4-letter just cannot get off their knees in front of those teams. Like, the only thing that would make them happier is if the Cowboys made it to a Super Bowl.
It's funny that you say that, because I was listening to sports radio on my way home today. It's an ESPN show, a national show, and I kid you not, this sports radio show spent no fewer than 2 segments talking about what the Cowboys need to do. And I was like, no, why? Why are you talking about the Cowboys? The Cowboys team that missed the playoffs miserably, you're still talking about them. And that, like, you talk about the 4-letter network bending knee to certain franchises.
I'm not talking about bending knee. I said knees, plural.
I heard.
Okay.
So, yeah, the kind of going back to Jordan's comment there as well. One other historic deal that we didn't bring up that would be a Super Bowl rematch would be the Bills and Vikings. Both of those teams 0-4 in Super Bowls, and at that point, somebody would have to finally win one.
Yeah,
that would be a good one. Crazy enough. You say both of those teams, like, the Lions are contributing to any of that. Just the Vikings are 0-4.
The Bills are also 0-4 in the Super Bowl as well.
Oh, excuse me. You're right. I was thinking about the Lions. Yes. So at 0-8, 0 for 8 altogether.
See, I want the Bills to win their first Super Bowl against the Niners or Cowboys. Like, I want
Oh,
it
and
to
like the
come full
redemption.
circle.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a full circle, generation-long redemption story. Like, I want
On
the
a field
Bills and
goal.
Josh Allen to get one, but I want it to happen against the Niners or the Cowboys, and that would require either one of them making the playoffs next year.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But we do have the Lions could win their first, appear in and win their first. The Texans could appear in and win their first. The Chargers could win their first. The Bills and the Vikings could all win their first. So there's some history that could be on the line, but
Here's another one, right? The Broncos are tied for the most losses in a Super Bowl. If they manage to get there and lose, they could now own that record outright.
beating who do they have that tied with? Is that with the Niners?
No, let me pull that up.
They have 5.
Yeah, 5 losses, and the Patriots also have 5
Patriots
losses.
have 5.
That could be too part of the reason that the whole New England thing and all of that is the simple fact that
If they did lose in pretty like big fashion, I think we'd probably have a much different. But they were just always there, man. Golly, they were always there.
I mean, at that point, the Patriots are 6-5 in the Super Bowl, so they've been there 11 times. They've made an appearance in almost 20% of all of them. So
there's what was their string of AFC Championship games?
It was insane.
17.
Like
It
where
felt
they
like 17.
where they played in AFC like 10 consecutive AFC Championship games.
I'm gonna see if I can find that.
So starting in 2018, they played. I'm working my way back here. So they played in the 2018 AFC Championship game, the 2017 AFC Championship game, 2016, 2015, 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011. Yeah, 2011 was the last one.
Yeah, so
That
2011
that
through
started the
2018.
streak. Yeah, 11 to 18. They played in the AFC Championship game.
So, yeah, very interesting. Jordan saying that they can live with a win-win Super Bowl.
I could live with it. I just don't think it's the best story.
Right, I would agree.
But yes, I could live with it.
Fair enough. Scott saying you guys don't see Will Levis developing his skills further than this.
No.
Nah.
No, he kind of is what he is. He doesn't manage the game well. He doesn't make decisions fast enough. His processing isn't quite there. I mean, when you have basically zero competition and you're still splitting starts, you're not the guy.
Right. And when they're willing
That's
to
okay. They got him in the 4th round.
second.
I mean,
he
drafted him in the
fumbled.
2nd.
Yeah, he fell to the first pick of the 2nd round. And I believe they traded up to get him.
That's right, because everybody thought for a second he had a shot at being the first guy. No.
So the
he had first round grade on him.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of those that there was a lot of folks out there that had him as a top 5 pick.
There was a lot of people going, "Oh, it's like Aaron Rodgers all over again," except the 2 different career trajectories. Same
like
season this year.
So
he could have that Geno Smith arc.
We need to come up with a blind mock-up and do Shedeur, Cam Ward, and Will Levis.
Yeah, their final season in college, or
we'll wait till after the combine. That way we have all their metrics. You have their college stats and their measurables, and we're just going to blind them, all 3, between Shedeur, Cam Ward, and Will Levis.
And which one do you take? Okay.
Which one do you take? Because I think Levis stacks up better than a lot of people want to believe after seeing him play.
Yeah.
And this is part of the reason I'm not big on Shador or Cam Ward.
Fair enough. You never know, right? Like he could have the Geno Smith career arc. Geno fell out of the
Possibly,
first
right? We've
round,
seen
got in the
that with some
second. Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
So, Scott also saying that they were surprised Josh Rosen couldn't stick as a backup.
Oh, he didn't want it.
Right. And I'm sure after that, that kind of fired up speech that he gave after being drafted number 10 and all of that, like kind of gives you a little glimpse of the personality. And that's not necessarily the personality archetype that you see as the backup QB, right? Like the backup
He
QB in
realized it
most
was hard.
the backup QB in most locker rooms is the most popular guy on the team. So be interesting to see how that one plays out. But Jordan saying the Chiefs are infinitely more likable than the Patriots dynasty. Nobody hates Reed, Mahomes the way they did Brady and Belichick. Maybe it's an East Coast versus a Midwest thing.
That could be.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of rooted for Andy Reid to get his Super Bowl that first time.
Right. After having gotten so close those times
So close with
in
Philly,
Philadelphia and
yeah.
just couldn't cross the threshold. Yeah.
We did. And there's probably some truth to that, right? Like there is something, if you don't live in New York, Boston, or LA, like there's a big part of you who doesn't want to see them have nice things. Right? Like
Right.
take your big city stuff and mindset and the fact that you have all these major media outlets and everything else, and you guys get to control the narrative on 99% of the things that comes through our monitors. No, you don't get to have championship franchises, and if you do, we hate you for it, right? Like you don't like the Knicks, you don't like the Celtics, you don't like the Patriots. Like if the Giants were good, everybody would hate the Giants. Like I mean, same thing with LA, like Dodgers, bleh, like I don't know, the Lakers, right? I mean, so I don't know. Like, man, he's probably a good point of that. Like,
Yeah.
East Coast thing. So all these New York media outlets are just spewing hate about the Patriots, and then it just kind of catches fire and stays there.
Very well could be.
Flyover states, no one cares.
Right. Scott saying the Cowboys should have been moved to the NFC South when the Panthers came in. I think they kept them in the East to please Jones. There's some of that there's those historic type of deals that they just play to.
Yeah. I'd be okay with conference realignment or divisional realignment.
Yeah. Any other
I'd be
thoughts
okay
on
with
this?
that.
Yeah, but you can't lose Dallas, Philadelphia.
Right.
But you can't.
You could, but man, you can't.
I mean, I could see that. That'd be kind of fun exercise, honestly. Like put all the teams on a map, see here they are, and then this is how we'd plot them out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Well, we have an off season that
you'd have
play
the
with that.
Florida division,
Right.
right? Jacksonville, Miami, Tampa Bay, like throw Atlanta in there. Boom. There's one division.
Yeah.
I have this is kind of a different tangent here, but there is a real possibility now, small but real possibility, that both the Chargers and the Rams host on conference championship weekend in the same building about 15 minutes after the first game ends.
If that's the case, they'd probably just bump that one Saturday and one Sunday.
Right. But like that's a real thing that could happen. And I actually this is not an original thought. I saw it online on Instagram or something.
Are we placing odds on this?
No, but the guy was like, yeah, this is a real thing that could happen, and these games, they literally kick off like 15 minutes after one game ends, the next game's supposed to start. And he goes, the crazy thing is this could have happened already because the Jets and the Giants share a stadium, But the NFL has never been concerned about them both being in conference championship weekend at the same time.
It would require the Jets to actually make a playoff.
I don't think they're too worried about it this year either.
I don't think they are. But like, how crazy would that be?
It'd be interesting to see what they did.
Right? It would be fun.
Yeah. Jordan saying that the Bills Vikes would be good. Jordan also saying, Scott, I've always thought all the divisions needed realignment to make more sense geographic, which we were talking about there. Further says, like, why are the Colts in the South and the Dolphins in the East? LOL. So Scott is saying, yes, Indy is another one. I think they would want to keep some traditional rivals, but how the hell is Dallas considered an East team? Yeah, all fair points.
Yeah. The only division that makes sense is the NFC West.
Right, because it's like the newest one, right?
Well, the AFC North makes a fair bit of sense.
I can live with that. I can live with how the AFC North is set. Same thing with the NFC North. I can live with how those are set.
Yeah.
Right.
NFC West works because the Rams finally moved back to LA, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It didn't really make a ton of sense when they were in St. Louis.
Yeah, being back there
geographically
makes sense.
Yeah, the AFC West makes some sense, just based on the conference split there, right? Like those are kind of your foremost West teams.
Right. So realistically, what happens is you throw probably Arizona. It would mimic more of like what the NHL is, right? You'd put LA teams. Yeah, you'd put the LA teams in one conference. So you'd have to switch the Chargers basically over to the NFC, move Arizona to the AFC to get them in with Denver, Kansas City,
Vegas.
and Vegas, because that's a nice little square. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be your deal. The two LAs, Vegas and Arizona.
No, your NFC West would be your two LAs, Seattle and San Francisco. That's your NFC West to make geographic sense. Arizona and Nevada are neighboring states. Now, I get that Arizona is also a neighboring state to California, but I think Phoenix is closer to Denver than, well, nothing's closer to Denver.
No, it's closer to LA.
But it's closer to LA. You're right.
And it's closer to Vegas for sure.
It is closer to Vegas.
So,
but Denver and Kansas City kind of throw a wrench in geographics because they are nowhere near anything.
Right. That's fun. We'll spend an episode kind of going through that and really play out. So that could be fun. All righty. Any other thoughts on that one?
Nah.
Jordan also saying Baltimore should be in the east, Miami to the south, Indy to the north. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. We'll go ahead and spend some more time on this and really kind of flush that one out here in some of these off-season
because why, Derek? Because even though the NFL season and the fantasy season is done, the good old boys continue on every week.
Absolutely. So Jordan saying it's a good topic as well. So
yeah, it's fun, right? It's an easy thing to banter back and forth with a little bit.
Right. Absolutely. Well, very cool. As far as that goes, that kind of takes us down here to the end of it. Any other topics we want to hit up?
Enjoy the games this weekend, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Wildcard Weekend, so enjoy those. You have the college football semifinals coming up. Like, enjoy it. Like, there's a lot of good football coming up this weekend. So, get your popcorn ready. Sit back, order pizza, some wings, whatever, kind of whatever you like to sit down and eat with, nachos. Grab a 6-pack of your favorite beverage, Dr. Pepper, Coors Light, Modelo. I mean, whatever it is.
All of which aren't sponsored, but hit us up.
No, none of them are sponsored. No, I'll gladly sponsor them, right?
So, but Awesome. Alex, any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
It should be a fun weekend. Yeah. Quick shout out North Dakota State win the FCS national championship last night. That was a hell of a football game. If you didn't watch that one, that was a hell of a football game. That was a fun one to watch.
Yes, congratulations to them.
Awesome. Well, that's going to take us down to the end of it. Appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in, all the comments, and we'll have some more fun next Tuesday when we go back live. But that's going to do it for us tonight. You can find us on all those socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Good Old Boys FF. And make sure that you're clicking the like, subscribe button, all that good stuff. But that's going to do it for us. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.